Hello, 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 everybody. Slightly slanted sleuth coming at you. Hey, hello. Hi, Max. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Hey, I just went live on YouTube, so you don't mind being live, do you?
No, we live now, are we?
Right now, I was just gonna starting it out, and boom, you popped up.
All good.
So yeah, guys, kind of impromptu intro, I suppose. Oh, I got my phone turned up. Excuse me, Max. I'm sorry.
All good.
Sorry,
Brother.
guys. But yeah, I'm joined today with Maxwell Egan. He has a radio show that he does, Surviving the Matrix. It's a weekly show, I believe. And he's been in this truth revealing game for much longer than me, for 10, 11, 15 years, I think he said. But hey, Max, does that sound about right? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I've been doing the radio show for 11 years, but I've been at this for a long time. With 10 years, 11 years on air.
Man, I love your show, by the way. It's you got some pretty good tidbits on there, and trying to keep the balance of what we face. And I appreciate everything you do, man. I really do, and I'm so happy to have you. I mean, honored actually to have you here and to be able to talk with you.
It's a pleasure, brother. It's a pleasure. Yeah, look, we're facing a pretty desperate sort of a situation, but yeah, people are waking up. Yeah, it's getting so much in your face now that they can't help it. I don't think they have to wake up. So, you know.
Yes.
So far before they notice, I think,
Right. I mean, and I think some of the stuff they're doing in our environment is simply causing the the uh, the signs that everybody should see anyway. I know I notice the environment looks differently. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all the stuff they're talking about, all the complaining of global warming or acid rain or whatever they want to bring out this week, it's all stuff they do. I mean, they do the whole lot. All of the problems we have with the atmosphere is because of the atmospheric spraying they do. I mean, there's so much that they do. They're destroying the world around us and telling us that we need to stop using plastic bags and that'll solve the problem, like it's our fault, it's our problem. Yeah, no, it's all done by design. The whole thing's done by design to push their agendas. Agenda 21, which was now Agenda 2030. They want to make us seem like we are the ones we are damaging the planet, so we need to be contained. It's all completely backwards. They've set the whole thing up to make us basically hate ourselves and think that it's good that humankind is being cold, really, is the way it's going. That's what they want us to think. And they want us to think that we're our biggest problem, and in many ways we are. But the damage that's done is contrived, completely contrived, and it's all done to bring about a certain agenda and to lead us to a certain point.
Yeah, you got a cold there, brother?
I've just been out stacking wood. It's winter here.
Winter.
And it's early morning, and I've just been out stacking wood, and it's real cold outside.
How cold is real cold?
And it's warm. Well, not real cold by your standards, probably, but cold by my standards.
Right.
When I go in from the warm air to the cold air, my nose gets a little bit of a sniffle.
Gotcha. It was just questioning me. I got allergies, and I'm in Minnesota, so this is the time of the year for that. So
no, it's just because I've been out stacking wood early in the morning. Then I realized that I've got a show here, so I have to come in and do this.
Well, I appreciate you taking time from your wood chopping melee to help spread the word, brother. And if nothing else, I gotta give it to you for having your boots on the ground. You travel to places to speak about this stuff, don't you?
I travel a lot, like way too much. I've decided to have this year off traveling, actually, because I'm away for at least 6 months of the year, pretty well every year, have been since 2012. For the last 7 or 8 years anyway, like traveling a lot and doing speaking engagements and just tours, trying to wake the world up, as we do.
Yes,
and you can do so much from on the ground here, but it's good to go and meet people, And then they see that you're actually real, and you're not, you're not something that you're not pretending to be something that you're not. And it's kind of inspirational for people to go and meet them and help inspire them on the ground. And so, yeah, so that's what I do. But I've taken most of this year off. I've got to travel again in September. I've got to go over to Philadelphia for Anarchadelphia. But most of the time this year, I'm just spending at home, which is the first year for a while. But yeah,
Well, good for
I've done
you.
quite a lot of traveling in the last 7 or 8 years. Too much.
Nice to take a sabbatical or a vacation every now and then, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't even get that. I mean, it's time off traveling, but I still work. I mean, I'm still doing the radio shows, working on films and doing interviews and other stuff. I mean, I still do talks around here as well, but just traveling overseas, it kind of gets to you after a while. It really does. I've spent most of my life traveling. I've been a musician most of my life, so I've spent most of my life on the road, and it does really get to you after a while.
Musician, what do you do? What do you play?
Guitar. I used to play guitar. I don't play too much anymore. A little bit of arthritis in the hands now, but yeah, I played guitar for a lot of time. Did front of house work as well, front of house engineering. So worked
Cool.
in band most of my life.
I'm a wannabe rock star myself. I'm a drummer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's why I asked. But yeah, who is Max? When did all this start for you? Why did you start it? Because for me, it was a big question when in my youth, I was like, what the hell was this? What was that? And a couple extra things throughout my life. But what drew you into where you're at today? What brought you to this point?
Well, like
The
so,
first.
well, like
Sorry.
so many other people, 9/11 made me realize the importance of what I've been researching and the need to speak out about it. I woke up from a very, very early age. I was awake pretty well all my life. I got kicked out of all my schools when I was younger because I was arguing with the teachers too much. And but it was 9/11 that really made me step out of my musical life and become a full-time activist, because it suddenly became very serious with 9/11. We'd been waiting for this big event to happen. You research this stuff and you look at the New World Order, you look at the Illuminati, for want of a better word, and you see all the things that these people have got coming down the pike. And it's kind of a hobby for you for quite a while, and it's kind of interesting. And you look at it and you think, oh yeah, and we're heading for this place. But then when 9/11 happened, it suddenly became very serious. Well, hang on, they just killed nearly 3,000 people in order to push their agenda. This is really serious. And so that was the catalyst that caused me to start speaking out as publicly as I am, as it was for many people, I think. But even with 9/11, I mean, in many ways, I think it was a fishing exercise. I think that's why they made it so obvious that it was staged. It made it so obvious that it was a false flag, because they wanted people like me to come out of the woodwork. They wanted people to realize, to see it, to see who was going to see it, so they'd know who they need to cull. So, and the internet, I mean, the World Wide Web, it's a web, it's a net, it's for catching people, it's a fishing exercise. The whole thing's been a fishing exercise. So it's an interesting thing looking at it that way. But like for so many others, 9/11 was really the catalyst that made me speak out. And I've been speaking out ever since. Like, it's just become a full-time job for me, because the world's heading to hell in a handbasket pretty quickly. And I really do think we can still turn it around. I think that humankind does have the potential to stand up for itself and to save itself. But it's going to take people actually leading the way, people standing up and saying it, to inspire others. So that's hopefully what I'm doing.
Right. Do you think that we're faced with I've heard you say the term technocracy in a couple of your talks in the past, and do you think that's the biggest issue or the scariest thing about what we face, and how we're going to kind of be in a self-induced technology trap?
Well, yeah, we really are heading that way now with the whole social crediting system and everything they're rolling out. I mean, we're heading for a situation where everything we do is going to be monitored. And if we think outside the box or step outside the lines, we get penalized. And that's the way it is. I've got people friends that went to China recently. I was actually speaking to someone yesterday. They had some friends that went to China, and they went to a shop to buy something, and they couldn't buy it without the code on their mobile phone. They need to shop with their mobile phone. If they don't have a mobile phone, well, they can't shop. And you walk across the street against a don't walk sign, and you get suddenly docked social credit points, and you get fined, and money gets taken out of your account, all done automatically. So this is the sort of situation that we're heading to. When it's all digital and all cash is digital, and you have to walk between the lines, and you're monitored in real time, and anything you do ends up with a reduction. This is not good. A reduction in social credit points, a reduction and instant on the spot fines. Whereas if you jaywalk across the street, you're fined $20 or whatever, and you don't even know. It's just taken out of your account automatically. You go to the shop to buy something, and that $20 is gone out of your account. That might be all you had. So this is the situation we're going to. It's a very, very dangerous situation, and it's a situation of complete and total control, where nobody will be able to even think what they want to think or say what they want to say. It's pretty drastic what we're heading into, and this is already starting to be implemented in Western countries now. They've been running in China for quite a while. There's 23 million people on China's credit blacklist at the moment, whose purchasing power is limited due to their political viewpoints. 23 million people, that's a lot of people that are on the blacklist. And that's grown significantly. Like in 2018, when I was in Acapulco, I mentioned that there were 7 million people, and then it grew up to 11 million people. But over the period of the last 18 months, it's gone up to 23 million people are now on China's credit blacklist. And these people can't buy plane tickets, they can't buy bus tickets, and many of them can't rent houses even. So this is where it's going. We're about to be penalized in real time by algorithms that are going to track and monitor everything we do. And pretty soon, when you get even pulled up by the police to check your license in your car or whatever, they're not even going to ask for your license. They'll ask you for your cell phone. So
They already do that, Max. I just got pulled over recently, and the guy told me about my kids, told me my Facebook profile. I mean, it's all interconnected already.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's where it's going, and that's what it's about. So this is why I don't own a cell phone. So that's going to be interesting for them. I don't own a cell phone, and I don't own a credit card. So, and I don't intend to ever own any of those things, either of those things. So it's just going to be an interesting future, I think.
Yeah, the technology that is taking over, and it's we're doing it to ourselves. I mean, me right now, I'm looking down at my phone so I can look at the chat of our live show and talk to you at the same time. So I'm not saying I'm above anybody on this, but I spend $500 a month on my service for my family, and I'm talking on a $1,200 phone. When I remember, I could communicate just the same with a quarter in a payphone, and payphones are non-existent here now, Max. You can't make an anonymous phone call. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's very difficult to find payphones here as well. I'm on a computer. I'm on a desktop computer. I have a laptop that I take traveling with me, but that's the only time I really use it. And I'm on a desktop hooked up to the phone line on ADSL, and so I don't even have a phone. So
Hooked up via Ethernet cable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? The wording and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? But
yeah, or right now the trumpets are sounding,
Yeah. Trump card. He was certainly the Trump card. He was.
Right. But yeah, do you think this may be just part of a cyclical thing that happens and occurs to our civilization after so many set amount of years, or do you think it's all human induced, or do you think maybe a little of both? What's your opinion on that?
Well, yeah, whether it's all human induced, you've got to ask that question. It's an interesting one. I'm starting to lean towards the idea that this is all cyclic. Yeah, that even the technology we're using now, I would suggest that it's not actually new technology, that it's old technology. It just gets filtered out to us. Yeah, and we see the progression of technology through the Industrial Revolution and the invention of television, and we see things get sort of more and more modern. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's been here all along, and if these are cycles that happen quite regularly. I mean, I've been looking at history recently, and most of our history appears to be fabricated. It really does. I mean, you can't find anything to back up the academic versions of things. If you really travel and you really look around the place, you can't find anything to back up the academic version. So it would appear that history is very different. And as said by Marcus Garvey, a man with no history is like a tree with no roots. And so when you take this from people, we don't know where we come from. We've got no real clue about what the human race is doing here, about what all the interactions between different races and cultures have been. We only know what we're told. But if you go and look around the world, like I said, you can't find any physical evidence or forensic evidence to support it. Even the black slave trade, all this sort of stuff, the concept that all these black people were brought over to the United States from Africa, there's not a lot to actually support that claim. It appears that many of the black people in the United States are actually native to America. So, and there was people that are native to Europe, and everything's been moved around, everything's been changed. All of our books have been rewritten, all of our history books have been rewritten and fabricated. We've got no real clue what's going on. So yeah, I think it's a cyclic thing that we're going through, and they just teach us whatever history they want to teach us over these generations, couple of generations, and gets to a point where we find out what's going on and they just lock us all down. I mean, I've even been considering the concept of memory replacement and all sorts of stuff. It might sound a little bit bizarre to people, but how hard would it be to simply zap people with an electromagnetic frequency and wipe their memories or replace their memories, or things like this?
Or what if certain alignments or certain natural causes cause certain plasma type things, or something like that, in the macrocosmic way, you never know, we don't know anything.
Exactly. There's all sorts of possibilities of what could be going on here, but it's certainly not what we're being told.
Exactly.
So,
Right.
I mean, we can speculate on what it may be, but like I said, it's very difficult to know. What I think we should be dealing with or focusing on is the clear and present danger that we're currently in, and dealing with our current situation, establishing freedom. Because if we establish freedom, then all of these mysteries and doorways will be open. That's the thing. We're constantly arguing about our different ideas of what may have happened, and we're missing the point. We're not really focusing on freedom, and I think that's what we should be focusing on.
Right. Was it the Mandela effect? Was it this? Was it the mud flood? Was it the flat earth? Was it this? Was it that? And that leads me into my next question for you is, have you ever considered that maybe all of it, everything is contrived, or just it's sort of a plot just to create the friction to confuse and division? I mean, I know you agree with that, but it's just crazy how it's on the political level, it's on the social level, it's on the, I mean, me and you get censored. I got a community guideline strike for sharing your video on the NZ thing with the car.
Hmm.
And it was the only time I've ever got messed with from YouTube on that aspect. It's the only time.
Yeah, well, that was what was really important about that event, was the car. And yeah, I think that everything, all the rabbit holes are put there for us to just divide us and to keep us arguing. As I said in my first film back in 2008, I said the easiest way to hide a real conspiracy is to create a conspiracy culture around it, so that everything becomes a conspiracy, and then people throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that's what they've done. They've created this entire fringe section of society that thinks everything is a conspiracy. And we've got people in there now who, they've bought into the whole lot. And if you don't agree with them on every single point, then you suddenly become the enemy. They distrust you because you must be an agent because you're not agreeing with them. So it's been very, very clever the way they've done it, but it's all been done by design. And underneath it all is the one real conspiracy that basically we're under control, and that the control that we are under is fiction. It's a meme. It's just an idea. It's this belief in authority that we have, because we just get told to do what we're told, and we do it because the man's wearing a uniform, or he's holding a position of title or an office of title or something, and so we think we must do what we're told. But it's this belief in authority which has created the whole thing. And even like you mentioned, the Mandela Effect. Many people say the Mandela Effect, this is a hoax, it's fake, it's whatever. Strange thing, I have memories that are different to what I see in the world today. And when I look at it, I almost wonder if the Mandela effect was some type of field test for memory replacement. This is one of the things that's made me consider that as being a possibility. You know, maybe there was a signal put out through monitors or put out to certain people or whatever. Maybe they just wanted to see who it was going to affect and who it wasn't going to affect. You know, perhaps there's certain people, perhaps even me, perhaps there's people who've had memories replaced. We just don't know. It's an interesting thing. But you look at some of the patents that they've got and the way they can interfere with us. You look at some of the MK Ultra experiments and some of the DARPA patents and some of the mind control stuff they've worked on, electromagnetic mind control, frequency mind control. It's quite possible. It's quite possible that that's what
Stuff
they've
that
done.
would cause somebody to associate not doing something to a certain color or following a certain path due to a certain trigger of a color or stuff like
Well,
that, right?
yeah, I mean, well, whatever. I mean, it's like, you know, when you look at the Mandela effect, you look at things like the Forrest Gump thing. You know, it's always been that way in this reality. It isn't that it changed somewhere. It's always been that way. It's just that I remember it differently. So have my memories been replaced in that respect? You know, because what I
I've got
remember.
a serious question for you. Do you know where we're located in the Milky Way galaxy?
Does anybody know where we're located in the
But
Milky
I
Way?
mean, do you remember where you learned we were located from the establishment back in, like, say, the 80s?
Well, yeah.
Where is
Vaguely.
that?
Well, on the outer edge of like the third or fourth spiral.
Bingo. We're not there, Max. We're 26,000 light years closer to the center now.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, you know. So
Perfect
everything.
example.
But
That was
how
awesome.
did they even know that is the question, you know?
Right, man.
They look at this with a telescope and they look at these planets with a telescope and they say, well, it's made of this and it's made of that. Well, how do you know? You weren't there. Oh, you're looking at different
Right.
readings that come from different colors that it gives you, and the computer tells you this and you figure out, but you don't actually know because you haven't gone and looked at it, you know.
Right.
So how do they know any of this stuff they tell us about where we are in the Milky Way or how far we are from anything? I mean, how do they honestly know any of this stuff, you know?
I totally agree with that. Or, what they know, what we know is what they know, what they told us is so we don't know if it's true or not. And so, it's just what we're told or shown.
Exactly. It's like Plato's allegory of the cave. You can tell them anything you want. You know, if you get enough people to believe it, well, it becomes a general consensus reality, and that's the way it is. It's just all based on people's perception of what is and what isn't. You know.
And then you got the 100th monkey effect. You're familiar with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think? How do you think that plays into this whole thing?
Well, it could do if enough people suddenly woke up to the fact that we're living in this people farm. Perhaps it would make some change. You know, it seems to make sense. You know, the fact that we are all connected and that there is this sort of a hive mind thing going on in some way, it does make a lot of sense. I mean, I hear people parroting back what I've said and mimicking what I've said, and it isn't even that they've heard me. It's that it's just out there in the field now.
Yes,
So,
I
you
love that.
know, yeah, I hear more and more people saying more and more similar things. And so maybe the collective consciousness is growing. I mean, maybe that's all it takes is for a certain amount of people to get it. And then the rest of the people do automatically. But I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. It's quite possible.
No, I think it's much deeper than we could even imagine. I'm leaning more towards the spiritual is the essence of what we are, and we are just living a human existence for that purpose, to experience
Yeah.
that, to be spiritual.
Well, yeah, it's a spiritual journey. It's a spiritual battle that we're facing. Absolutely it is. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the only really way out of this is to adjust our spiritual perspective, adjust our mindset, change our perception. That's how we will get out of this mess. You know, a simple change of perspective of who and what we are and what authority is and who these people in uniform are would change everything. You know, that's why, you know, we don't even really have to do anything. We don't have to protest or march or anything. As I've said, non-compliance, a simple act of non-compliance. If the whole world stayed home for a day and didn't spend any money, imagine the shockwave it would send around the earth. People would not know what to do. The Wall Street would freak out if nobody spent any money for a day. It'd just they wouldn't know what to do. It'd shock them. And it would inspire people so much, you know, because I mean, all we really need to do is shift our perspective and go, hang on a minute. I don't want to do this anymore. Why are we doing all these things, running around, all these jobs that people do? They work so hard thinking what they're doing is important, and it's not. It's completely meaningless. It's just to tie up their time for the day so that they don't ever have any focus on themselves. But oh no, it's
Bingo.
important that we do this. We got to move this stuff here and move that there and move this here. These big buildings. I remember walking around with my son, and he said, "What do they do in all these high-rise buildings, Dad?" And I said, "They move paper around, son. They just sitting there moving paper. People write on stuff and they send it to another room, and then that gets sent upstairs. Then it gets mailed to somebody and goes somewhere else. It's just paper. They're just moving paper around, and I think it's important. You know, now it isn't even paper. Now it's digital paper. So what they're moving around isn't even real. You know, so
Right.
people are just moving data around all the time, and they think it's important, and it's not. You know, they're missing out on themselves. It's just all this stuff that's there to occupy them, so they don't even notice their surroundings and don't ever really find themselves.
Yeah, and truly, if you're truly in the belief that everything is connected, then you have to realize that if you're not focused on yourself and understanding who yourself is, you won't understand anything in life because we're all one, right?
Well,
And,
yeah.
and it starts
And
with yourself.
what you came here to do is to express yourself to the greatest of your potential and to find out yourself and to find out who and what you are, you know, and to express that, you know, to the greatest of your artistic potential. And we don't do that. We don't ever have that focus. We get taught that it's all about, you know, getting a good job or getting a this and a that and climbing to the top of the pile so that, you know, the one with the most stuff wins. And if you work really hard and you get to the top of this pile, then you're going to have all this stuff, then you'll be able to go out and enjoy the world, you know. And then you get there and you get to that and you get that pile of stuff and you go out to enjoy the world and you go out and everywhere's the same as everywhere else. You know, and you reach this utopia that you've been striving for, that they tell you exists, and you get there and you go, well, hang on, there's nothing here. It was all a complete waste of time, and I missed out on me the whole time. You know, I got all this stuff thinking it actually meant something to have this big house and this big car and all this stuff and marble bench tops or whatever. You know, it's completely meaningless. It doesn't mean a thing. It doesn't help your life. Doesn't help you. You know, it's crazy. You know, people looking for fame or fortune, and really they should be looking for themselves and realizing that the true value of true friendship, you know, what people are. And you know, we just got a whole world full of really, really lonely people wandering around, all thinking that they're going to find the answer to themselves in the latest image of themselves or the latest pile of stuff that they've bought or the latest pair of shoes or fast car or whatever. You know, it's you and it's the friendships and the people you develop. People, when I travel so much, people say, where's your favorite place on earth? Where's the best place you've ever been? And I say, everywhere you go is as good as the people that you know there. Everywhere you go is as good as the relationships that you've developed. You know, everywhere's beautiful. The whole earth is beautiful. The desert's beautiful. Everywhere's beautiful. But it's the people that, you know, I mean, I can go anywhere around the world. If I'm just there by myself, it's just a boring place. It's just not a good place to be. It doesn't matter how pretty it is. It's just, you got no good memories. You got nothing really, no connection that happened there. It's the people you meet. So everywhere is wonderful if you meet the right people. And it's the people that's important. It's the relationships and the learning that comes from those relationships that's important. It doesn't matter how much they own or what they own or how rich they are or what they look like or any of that sort of stuff. All of that's completely irrelevant. It's about the human connection that you make. And you know, we've very much lost touch of that. And it's losing more and more as we go more into the digital world. The kids have got no real idea. To them, it's about Instagram and likes and Snapchat and all that sort of stuff. It's about social status. And social status is a complete fiction, you know. So
Yeah, it's akin for in my mind, it's akin for the cliques we had in high school. You know, you had the jocks, the preps, you know, the nerds and whatnot. It's kind of like that, how they, you know, how they've sectioned themselves off. And I don't know, the kids are more superficial in that aspect, but I think they are gaining more connection via the black boxes, and It's making what you just said, which was a beautiful statement. What you just said was we need more people spreading that sort of message, because our technocracy is getting the better of us these days. So I totally agree with that.
Oh, it is, and it's the boxes and the complete loss of self. It's a real shame. But the kids, I mean, the problem is that the kids with this technology, they're not going to know what freedom looks like. They're not really going to have any reference point, and often they're getting addicted to it so quickly. I mean, what they're doing now, like giving kids iPads and stuff in schools, way before they're I mean, they're too young to even understand what the damage that these things are doing, and they're getting addicted to it. They're getting addicted to the dopamine. It's basically child abuse. So this is what's leading us away from this this true reason that we're here. This loss of self that's happening. It's through the technology, and the technology is becoming, like I said, it's an addiction for them, and it's becoming a slavery system. It's getting to the point where you can't move without the technology, and we will be penalized by what we think. So, we're heading for a pretty dangerous place. But like I said, people are getting it. People are waking up, and we can still turn it around. The 5G action that's been happening has been really good. A lot of people have got the whole concept of what 5G is doing, and it's caused a lot of people who wouldn't normally be active to actually get active. That's a good thing as well, because they're kind of pushing it out too quickly. So
I agree with that. I've heard stories of airport workers that sit next to the scanning machines that are 5G. You know, that scan people. Is there any truth to that?
I think there is. I think they are 5G, and it's getting to the point, like a lot of people who are standing next to the airport scanners,
Yeah.
they're getting sick.
Yep.
So, and all sorts of people are getting sick from this. But like I said, it is hard. It is hard for the kids to know, because they don't want to believe it. A lot of them
Right.
don't want to believe it. That's the interesting thing, what you were saying before. The kids, they think that we're just the old fuddy-duddies or whatever, and we don't know. It's an interesting thing that, and I think George Orwell said it, that the interesting thing about people is that each generation imagines itself to be more intelligent than the one that went before it, and wiser than the one that follows it.
That's
And that happens
beautiful.
with every generation believes that I'm more intelligent than my parents, and I'm wiser than my children.
One could
Everybody.
also say that every generation thinks it's going to be the end of the world too, in some
Yeah,
aspect.
yeah. But it's interesting, the generation gap, and this has all been manufactured as well through television and through this scholastic system. How kids have been divided from their parents, and there's no real communication. There's a barrier. The generation gap, it's been very much constructed. But it's an interesting thing. It'd be wonderful to get that away. And I think a lot of this is through the education system as well. The way kids are put in groups with their peers, all the same age groups in classes. So there's no real interaction with different generations. Back in the old days, you'd have, grade 1 through to grade 12 all in the same class with the one teacher giving different lessons to different students, and they'd all get to interact with each other. And that would be a good thing. You'd have young kids that would be emulating the older kids who are the good kids, who they respected, and you'd have older kids learning how to care for and look after the younger kids, and it was
Yeah.
a much better way of doing things. And I think that this generation gap has caused this division, and it's been manufactured, so that now you do have each generation thinking they're more intelligent than their parents and wiser than their children. Everyone
You just
does it
gave
by
me an
default.
aha moment. Do you ever get those aha moments, Max, when somebody's talking and you put two and two together?
Uh-huh.
Where I had one of those just now, and it's that we've lost the touch with that when you do something for somebody, that feeling you get inside, that upwelling of just good. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
That's what we've lost touch with, and that's what it's hard to convey to your children when you're in this. And me as a father, I'm saying that from experience, because you just hit home right there with what you said. You know.
Well, it's true. It's true. I mean, we don't have friendship with them, and we don't have respect for them, and they don't have respect for us, because there's this barrier that's been put there, and it's been manufactured, and a lot of it is through the education system by the classes, the way they're kept in their own age group. And they're not taught to interact with people of various ages, so they don't ever develop that rapport. To them, it's all about segregation. My team, my group, the teenagers. Yeah, we're the 16-year-olds. We don't want to hang out with the 18-year-olds. We don't hang out with the 14-year-olds. We're the 16-year-olds. So it's that mentality, and it's pushed into them. It's completely pushed into them, and it's through the education system. The education system that we've got is basically child abuse. It's completely dysfunctional, and it's planned to be that way. Absolutely done on purpose. But it's basically child abuse and indoctrination. It's not education at all.
I would agree with that. It's teaching you how to memorize things. It's not critical thinking at all. I agree with that.
Well, it's not critical thinking. Yeah, it's just being taught to regurgitate stuff on command, but also, it's very competitive. You're taught to compete with the people of your own age, not to cooperate with them. And you must think inside the box. If you don't, we'll put you in a corner and put a dunce hat on you, and we'll get the rest of the class to ridicule you. And then at the end of each term, we will grade you, so you become an A-class person down to a D-class person, depending on how well you can regurgitate on command. Even grading students, tests and grading. This is completely detrimental to human growth. It's completely detrimental to real education. If you think about it, people might say, "Oh no, we need that. We need to have tests to see how they're going." Well, they're being taught rubbish. You don't. That's not how you teach them. You find the individual genius that each child has, and you nurture that, and you help that grow. That's what real education is, and that's what education should be. Just teaching everyone to think the same and regurgitate the same stuff, and whoever regurgitates it best is the one who excels and gets the gold star. Then put them all out into the society and tell them to all go and compete with each other and be ruthless in the business world. I mean, no wonder the earth is in the state that it's in. No wonder our society is in the state that it's in. If this is what the kids are being taught, and it is what they're being taught, and it's getting even worse. I mean, that's the way it was when I was at school, which is why I got kicked out of 4 schools, because I was arguing with my teachers so much.
You got kicked out of school too? I got kicked out of the public school system myself.
I got kicked out of 4 public schools because I kept arguing with my teachers and telling them that they weren't teaching me anything that I needed to know.
Right.
And the history they were teaching me was wrong, because I'd read books on the stuff they're teaching me, and it's not what they're teaching me is not right. And I used to want to know why. I used to say, look, I've come to school to learn, and you're not teaching me. I'll learn more sitting in the library. I'll learn more staying at home reading books than what I do coming and talking to you people. You're not preparing me for later life. You're just training me to be a little cog in the big machine. And I don't want to be part of the big machine. I want to live my life. I want to express things. I want to know what's going on. I want to be educated. Why aren't you educating me? You want to give me homework and take the homework home? No, I come to school to do work. I don't take schoolwork home. You want me to take schoolwork home? Well, I'll bring my work from home and I'll bring it to school and I'll do it on school time. How's that?
Hey, I think there's a bunch of teenagers out there saying, yeah.
And I never did any homework. I never did any homework at all in my whole time in high school. I refused to do homework. I come to school to do that work. I'm not taking it home with me. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't get along with them at all. I had my own desk outside the principal's office for my last 6 months of high school because no class had had me. And then halfway through my 3rd year of high school exams, I just thought, what am I doing here? And I got up and walked out halfway through my exams, became a musician and never looked back, traveled the world.
That's incredible. I did the same exact thing, but I never traveled the world. I had kids and pretend to be a musician and play in my basement and get the fine pleasure to talk to people, so honorable as yourself. I mean, dude, you're the boots on the ground type of guy that, I wish I could be. And, if I wasn't tied down with a family and responsibilities there, I'd probably be running the world right along shoulder to shoulder with you, because you're fighting a good fight. You're a warrior of right, and I totally appreciate it, man.
Well, it's a lonely fight, I'll tell you though, brother. It's a lonely battle because I've been on my own for the last 20 years, 25 years, because it's very hard to find someone that would want to live this sort of a lifestyle.
Right.
She'd have to be a pretty strong woman, you know.
I was lucky enough to find one that we can learn to disagree, you know, and just leave it at that. But yeah, I know exactly how it feels to be lonely. And I think half of the people that are recently awakened are in the same boat and looking for the same like-minded people. And, you know, here where I like to spread the my truth as I see it at present is welcome to anybody of the likes of you, Max, because you know what, you got your head on your shoulders, you're fighting a good fight, and you know, before we go, what do you think is the biggest thing we as individuals can do to help turn this around? What the first step we should take?
Lead by example. Help people around you. Be a shining light in your community and help everybody you can, you know, but don't deplete yourself in the process. And get away from the smart grid. Get away from the smart technology. Don't shop with credit cards. You know, use, if you got your smartphone, fine, just don't use the apps for all the stuff, all the personal assistance, and don't take it with you everywhere you go. You don't need to have this thing on you everywhere you go, tracking everything you do. You know, the smart grid is the new world order. Make no mistake about it. That's what it is. And if we get led into the point where everything becomes smart and cash is removed and it's all down to social crediting, well, we're screwed. It's going to be very, very difficult to get out of that point. The only way we're going to get out of that situation is to shut the whole grid down, turn off the power, and go back to the Stone Age. And you're not going to see that happening. So, you know, just be aware of what you're doing day to day. Be aware of your actions. Always shop with cash, and you know, don't use your smartphone. This is the most important thing that people could do. But again, lead by example in your community. Ask questions. Question authority. If your schools are teaching bad things to your students, to your kids, go and ask them why. You know, if they say, "Oh, we have no choice," say, "Well, who's the education minister who's given you no choice?" Because you actually do have a choice, you know. And if you're not going to say something about it, well, we need to say something about it, and we need to start taking action against the politicians that are enacting this type of legislation, because it's not acceptable, and we're not going to roll over on command, you know. And we need to inspire the community to think this way and to stand up. Really need to inspire, you know, school teachers to stand up and do the right thing and question the curriculums they're being given, you know, because the kids are the future, and what we're doing to the kids, I mean, they're going to have no reference point for freedom once they get through this mess that they go through that we call the education system. So we really need to pay attention now. That's the best thing people can do, is to pay attention, get involved in their children's education, and be aware of what their actions are on a daily basis in everything they're doing. Are they using the smart grid, or are they using reality? Because there's a difference between the two, you know.
Bravo, man, bravo. That's exactly. And you know, I've been hearing a certain phrase spoken everywhere lately, and it's in Lakesh. And I think that originated somewhere around your area there.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful to hear people saying it. In Lakesh is a Mayan greeting, which means I am another yourself. You know, we are each other. And once we can respect each other in that way, respect people as you would respect yourself, will change the world in a day. That's why I always use that, you know, in Lakesh, I'm another yourself. We don't have to be divided from each other. We don't have to profit from each other. We don't have to, I mean, sure, we're all vastly different from each other in as much as we all have a completely unique perspective, but ultimately we're all the same. We all have equal value. We all have equal right to be here. We all have equal right to express ourselves to the greatest of our potential. And really that's what it means. And it's great to hear people using it. It's
Yeah,
good.
bravo, man. And you know, it gives you a warm feeling when you know there are still people out here that get it. And you know what? I know you're one of them. So
Well, thank you,
thank you very
brother.
much, Max, for joining us. And man, it's been excellent. I think the best interview I've ever done, as far as the smoothness of it all. And you know, you have some good information, and keep up the good fight, man.
Thank you, brother. Pleasure. Happy to come and talk to you anytime, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Yeah, guys, that was Maxwell Egan, and I appreciate everybody for joining us. And you guys have a good evening.